Admiral Vexthara stood on the bridge of his massive warship. The alien commander had blue skin and 4 arms. His yellow eyes stared at the screens in front of him. The Galactic Empire's 7th Fleet moved through space like a pack of metal wolves. "Admiral, we are reaching the dead zone," said his second officer. The creature had green scales and spoke in a hissing voice. Vexthara nodded. 200 years ago, this area of space belonged to humans. The Empire had fought a short war with them. The humans had vanished after that. Everyone thought they were all gone. "Run deep scans," the Admiral ordered. "I want to know if anything is still alive out here." The fleet of 50 ships moved deeper into what used to be human space. The area was supposed to be empty, dead, nothing but old rocks and cold planets. Far away, in a hidden ship, Captain Jake Morrison felt his body wake. Up, the cryo-sleep chamber hissed as it opened. Cold air hit his face. He had been asleep for a very long time. "Captain, you need to see this," said a voice. It was Lisa Carter, his chief engineer. She was already awake and working at her station. Jake sat up slowly. His muscles felt stiff. "What is it, Lisa?" "Empire ships. A whole fleet. They're heading right for us." Jake stood up and walked to the control center. The ship around him was called the New Hope. It looked old and damaged from the outside, but inside, it was full of the most advanced technology humans had ever built. "How many ships?" Jake asked. 50, maybe more. They're scanning everything." Jake looked at the screen. The Empire ships were huge and dark. They had weapons that could destroy planets. But Jake was not afraid. "Wake up the others," he said. "It's time." Lisa pressed several buttons. All around the ship, more cryo chambers began to open. Ryan Taylor, the weapons officer, was the first to wake up. He was a tall man with dark hair. Amy Foster, the medical officer, woke up next. She was small but tough. "How long were we asleep?" Ryan asked. 200 years, Jake said. "Just like we planned." The crew looked at each other. They had all volunteered for this mission. They had agreed to sleep for centuries, waiting for the right moment. "The Empire thinks we're all dead," Amy said. "Good," Jake replied. "Let them think that a little longer." On the Empire flagship, Admiral Vexthara was getting strange readings. His science officer, a creature with 6 legs and no eyes, was studying the data. "Admiral, I'm detecting energy signatures, but they're very weak." "From where?" "There." The science officer pointed to a spot on the screen. "It looks like an old human station, but it should be dead." Vexthara smiled. He had sharp teeth like a shark. "Send 3 ships to investigate. If there are humans left, we'll finish what we started." The Empire ships moved toward the human station. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Jake watched the enemy ships getting closer. "Lisa, are the defense systems ready?" "Yes, Captain. Everything is online." "Ryan, weapons?" "Ready and waiting, sir." Jake nodded. The humans had spent 200 years preparing for this moment. They had not been running away. They had been getting ready. "Amy, send the signal to the other ships." Amy pressed a button. Across the galaxy, other human ships began to wake up. Ships that had been hiding for 2 centuries. Ships that the Empire had never found. The first Empire ship reached the human station. It was a small vessel with 20 crew members. They thought they were investigating a dead relic. "Sir, the readings are getting stronger," said the Empire. "Ship's captain." "Just scan it and let's go," replied the first officer. "I don't like this place." Suddenly, the space around them began to change. The air itself seemed to bend and twist. The Empire ship's instruments went crazy. "What's happening?" The captain screamed. Before anyone could answer, shapes began to appear in the darkness. Huge shapes. Ships that were bigger than anything the Empire had ever built. They looked like they were made of metal and something else. Something alive. On the New Hope, Jake smiled. Show them what we learned while we were away. The first human dreadnought fully appeared. It was massive, twice the size of the Empire flagship. Its hull was black, but seemed to move like liquid. Lights ran along its sides like veins of fire. Admiral. Vexthara saw it on his screen. His 4 arms began to shake. That's impossible. Humans don't have ships like that. Sir, there are more appearing, said his science officer. One by one, ancient human warships came out of hiding. They had been waiting in folded space, invisible to Empire sensors. Each ship was different, but equally terrifying. The small Empire ship that had gone to investigate tried to run. But it was too late. A beam of green light shot from the human. Dreadnought. The Empire ship simply vanished. Red alert. Vexthara shouted, "All ships battle positions." But the humans were already moving. The ancient warships moved like living things. They were fast and smooth. Their weapons charged with a sound like thunder. Jake stood on his bridge, watching the Empire fleet panic. Send them a message, Amy. Amy opened a communication channel. Jake's face appeared on every Empire ship's screen. This is Captain Jake. Morrison of the human fleet, he said calmly. You are in our space. Leave now, or face the consequences. Admiral Vexthara stared at the human. Your species is extinct. We destroyed you. Jake smiled. You destroyed nothing. We chose to leave. We chose to wait. We chose to become something more. Around the Empire fleet, more human ships appeared. They came from every direction. Ships that looked like they had been grown rather than built. Ships that pulsed with their own life. Impossible, Vexthara whispered. You forgot something important, Jake said. Humans are very good at learning. And we had 200 years to learn. The first battle was about to begin. But the Empire already knew they were in trouble. The ancient human warships were deadlier than anything they had ever seen. Commander Alex Rodriguez opened his eyes in the darkness. The cryo chamber around him was warm and comfortable. He had been asleep for so long that he almost forgot who he was. Commander, we're needed, said a voice. It was Katie Miller, his navigation officer. She was already awake and working at her station. Alex sat up and looked around. He was on the bridge of the UHS Vengeance, the most powerful warship humans had ever built. The ship was huge, over 3 miles long. But it had been hidden for 200 years. What's the situation? Alex asked. Captain Morrison has made contact with the Empire. The first phase has begun. Alex nodded. This was what they had been waiting for. The moment when humanity would return to the galaxy. Wake up the crew. He ordered. Around the massive ship, thousands of cryo chambers began to open. Danny Phillips, the communications officer, was among the first to wake up. He was young, but very smart. Maria Santos, the security chief, woke up next. She was tough and had scars from the old war. How do you feel? Alex asked his crew. Ready for payback, Maria said with a grin. The Empire fleet was in chaos. Admiral Vexthara watched as more human ships appeared around his forces. They came from nowhere, like ghosts becoming real. How many are there? He demanded. Unknown, sir. Our sensors can't track them properly. They seem to phase in and out of normal space. Vexthara had fought many battles. He had conquered dozens of worlds for the Empire. But he had never seen anything like this. Send a message to High Command. Tell them we need reinforcements. Sir, they're jamming our communications. On the New Hope, Jake Morrison was coordinating with his fellow captains. The human fleet was spread across light years, but they communicated instantly. Alex, are you ready? Jake asked. On the Vengeance, Alex looked at his crew. They were all veterans from the old war. They had volunteered to sleep for centuries, waiting for this moment. We're ready, Jake. Let's show them what we learned. The first Empire ship fired its weapons. Massive energy beams shot toward the human vessels. The Empire had weapons that could melt mountains. But something strange happened. The human ships didn't dodge. They didn't raise shields. The enemy fire simply passed through them like they weren't there. What happened? Vexthara screamed. Sir, they're using some kind of phase technology. Our weapons can't hit them. The human ships began to move. They flowed through space like water. Their hulls rippled and changed shape. They were more than just machines. They were alive. Alex stood on the bridge of the Vengeance. Katie, take us into their formation. Yes, sir. The massive human warship moved forward. It passed right through the Empire fleet like a ghost. The Empire ships fired everything they had, but nothing worked. Danny, open a channel to the Empire flagship. Danny's fingers danced over his controls. Channel open, sir. Alex's face appeared on Admiral Vexthara's screen. The human looked calm and confident. Admiral, this is Commander Alex Rodriguez. We need to talk. You're all supposed to be dead, Vexthara said. His voice was filled with fear. We were never dead. We were waiting. Waiting for what? Alex smiled. For you to get comfortable. For you to think you had won. For you to forget that humans don't give up. Around the Empire fleet, more human ships peered. They were all different sizes and shapes. Some looked like metal whales. Others looked like giant birds. All of them pulsed with their own life. 200 years ago, you attacked us, Alex continued. You thought you were fighting a primitive species. You were wrong. We defeated you easily, Vexthara said, but his voice was shaking. You defeated our old ships, our old weapons, our old way of thinking, so we decided to become something new. The human ships began to surround the Empire fleet. They moved without sound, like predators stalking prey. You see, Admiral, humans are very good at adapting. We learn from our mistakes. And you taught us a very important lesson. What lesson? That the galaxy is not big enough for both of us. Suddenly, the human ships attacked, but they didn't use normal weapons. Streams of golden light shot from their hulls. The light touched the Empire ships and began to eat through their armor like acid. Shields up, Vexthara ordered. The Empire ships raised their defensive barriers. But the human weapons passed right through them. The golden light touched the metal and turned it to dust. Impossible, Vexthara whispered. 3 Empire ships were destroyed in seconds. They simply fell apart like sand castles. The crews didn't even have time to scream. How are you doing this? Vexthara demanded. Alex looked at him with cold eyes. We learned to think differently. Your weapons work on dead matter. Our weapons work on the bonds between atoms. We don't destroy your ships. We convince them to stop being ships. The Empire Admiral felt terror creep up his spine. These were not the humans he remembered. These were something else. Something more dangerous. We studied your empire for 200 years, Alex continued. We watched you conquer species after species. We saw how you treated those who surrendered. We decided we would never surrender again. Maria Santos stepped forward. Sir, should we take prisoners? Alex looked at the Empire ships. Many of them were trying to run, but the human vessels were faster. They caught the fleeing ships easily. No prisoners today, Maria. These are the ships that burned our colonies. These are the crews that laughed while our people died. Understood, sir. More Empire ships died. The human weapons were precise and deadly. They cut through armor like it was paper. They turned shields into nothing. Please, Vexthara said. We can negotiate. Negotiate? Alex laughed. Did you negotiate? With the children on New Tokyo? Did you negotiate with the families on Mars Colony 7? Vexthara remembered those battles. The Empire had not shown mercy. They had killed everyone. That was war, he said weakly. This is war too, Alex replied. The same war. We're just finishing it. The human ships moved closer. The Empire fleet was trapped. They couldn't run. They couldn't fight. They couldn't hide. But we're not monsters, Alex said. We'll give you one chance. One ship can leave. One ship can carry a message back to your empire. What message? Tell them that humanity has returned. Tell them that we remember everything. Tell them that we're coming home. Admiral Vexthara looked around his bridge. His crew was terrified. They had never faced an enemy like this. Choose quickly, Alex said. My patience is running out. Vexthara made the hardest decision of his life. He pointed to the smallest ship in his fleet. The scout ship. Let it go. Alex nodded. Danny, let that ship leave. The rest stay here. The small Empire ship turned and ran. It jumped to hyperspace as fast as it could. The rest of the fleet waited to die. Thank you for the lesson, Admiral, Alex said. We learned it well. The human ships closed in. The ancient warships were about. To show the galaxy what 200 years of planning could accomplish. Admiral Steve Carter woke up in his command chair aboard the UHS Retribution. The massive flagship was over 5 miles long and housed 50,000 crew members. All of them had been sleeping for 2 centuries. Admiral, all systems are online, said Nicole Adams, his tactical officer. She was a short woman with red hair and sharp green eyes. The fleet is awakening. Steve looked at the main screen. Across the galaxy, hundreds of human ships were coming back to life. They had been hidden in folded space, invisible to Empire sensors for 200 years. Greg, what's our status? Steve asked his science officer. Greg Martinez looked up from his instruments. All ships are responding, sir. The biological components are functioning perfectly. We're ready for combat, Steve nodded. The human ships were not just machines anymore. They were grown, not built. Part metal, part living tissue. They could heal themselves, adapt to damage, and learn from each battle. Lavra, what's the Empire doing? He asked his intelligence director. Laura Hughes studied her screens. They're panicking, sir. The survivor from Alex's battle reached their high command. They're sending everything they have. Steve smiled. How many ships? 500. Maybe more. They're calling it the biggest fleet in Empire history. Good. Let them come. Far away, in the Empire's capital system, Fleet Admiral Zixmara was preparing for war. The alien commander had purple skin and 6 arms. His species had served the Empire for 1,000 years. Are you certain about these reports? He asked his aide. Yes, sir. Admiral Vexthara's message was clear. The humans have returned. They have weapons we don't understand. Zixmara had fought in the first human war. He remembered it being easy. The humans had primitive ships and simple weapons. The Empire had one in just 6 months. Gather the Grand Fleet. We'll crush them like insects. Sir, the reports say their ships are different now. They can phase through matter. Their weapons ignore our shields. Nonsense. No species is that advanced. The reports are exaggerated, but Zixmara was wrong. The humans had spent 200 years becoming something new, something deadly. On the Retribution, Steve Carter was coordinating with his captains. The human fleet was spread across dozens of star systems, but they communicated instantly through quantum entanglement. Sarah, how are your strikes going? He asked. Captain Sarah Mitchell was aboard the UHS Defiance. Her ship was smaller but faster. She specialized in hit-and-run attacks. We've destroyed 3 Empire supply convoys, sir. Their logistics are falling apart. Ben, what about you? Commander Ben Parker commanded the UHS Phantom. His ship was designed for stealth and precision strikes. We've taken out their command posts in the Vega system. They can't coordinate their defense. Steve looked at the tactical display. The Empire was trying to organize a response, but the humans were always one step ahead. The Empire thinks in straight lines, he said to his crew. They attack from the front. They defend in formations. We've learned to think in curves. Nicole Adams smiled. They're about to learn the hard way. The Empire's Grand Fleet jumped into human space. 500 massive warships appeared in formation. They were ready for a traditional battle, but the humans were not there. Where are they? Zixmora demanded. Unknown, sir. Our sensors show empty space. Impossible. They have to be here somewhere. Suddenly, the space around the Empire fleet began to ripple. The stars themselves seemed to bend and twist. Then the human ships appeared. They came from every direction at once. Above, below, from the sides. They materialized out of nowhere like ghosts becoming real. All ships open fire. Zixmora ordered. The Empire fleet unleashed everything they had. Millions of energy blasts filled space. The firepower was enough to destroy a planet. But the human ships were not where they appeared to be. They were phased slightly out of normal space. The Empire weapons passed through them harmlessly. Sir, we're not hitting anything, reported the weapons officer. And get closer. The Empire ships moved forward. But as they did, the human vessels began to attack. Golden streams of light shot from their hulls. Where the light touched Empire ships, the metal began to dissolve. Shields are useless, someone screamed. The weapons are eating through our hulls. Steve Carter watched the battle from his command chair. Nicole, target their command ship. Yes, sir. The Retribution moved through the Empire formation, like a shark through a school of fish. Empire ships fired at it, but their weapons had no effect. The human flagship was protected by technology the Empire couldn't understand. Lavra, jam their communications, Steve ordered. Already done, sir. They can't talk to each other. The Empire ships began to panic. They were fighting an enemy they couldn't hit. An enemy that destroyed them with ease. Greg, how are the adaptive systems working? Steve asked. Perfectly, sir. Every time they try a new weapon, our ships learn to counter it. We're getting stronger with each attack. This was the key to human victory. Their ships were alive. They learned. They adapted. They became better with each battle. Captain Sarah Mitchell was leading a strike force against the Empire's left flank. Her ship, the Defiance, moved like a living thing. It twisted and turned, avoiding enemy fire. Target their engines, she ordered her crew. The Defiance fired its weapons. The golden light touched 3 Empire ships. Their engines simply stopped working. The ships became floating hulks. Next targets, Sarah said calmly. Commander Ben Parker was attacking from the other side. His ship, the Phantom, was almost invisible. It appeared, struck, and vanished again. How many ships have we destroyed? He asked his crew. 47, sir. No losses on our side. Good. Keep going. The Empire fleet was falling apart. Ships were dying faster than they could count. Admiral, Zixmora was in shock. This isn't possible, he whispered. We have superior numbers, superior firepower. Sir, we've lost over 100 ships. We need to retreat. No, we cannot show weakness to humans. But it was too late. The human ships were everywhere. They moved like a pack of wolves, coordinating their attacks perfectly. Steve Carter opened a communication channel to the Empire flagship. Admiral Zixmora, This is Admiral Steve Carter. Do you remember me? Zix Mora stared at the screen. He did remember. This human had been a young captain in the old war. The Empire had destroyed his ship and killed his crew. You're supposed to be dead, Zix Mora said. I was, for about 30 seconds. Then my ship's medical bay brought me back. One of the advantages of our new technology. What do you want? I want you to understand something. This isn't a battle. It's a demonstration. We're showing you what happens when you wake up a sleeping giant. Around the Empire fleet, more human ships were appearing. They came from hyperspace, from folded dimensions, from places that shouldn't exist. How many ships do you have? Zix Mora asked. Enough, Steve replied. We spent 200 years building them. 200 years planning this moment. 200 years dreaming of revenge. The Empire Admiral felt fear crawl up his spine. These were not the humans he remembered. These were something else. Something that had evolved beyond his understanding. We offer you the same choice we offered your predecessor, Steve continued. One ship can leave. One ship can carry a message. What message? Tell your Emperor that humanity is coming home. Tell him that we remember every world he took, every life he destroyed, every child he killed. Zix Mora looked around his bridge. His crew was terrified. Half his fleet was already destroyed. Tell him that we're not the same species that ran away 2 centuries ago. We're something new. Something that learned from our defeat. And if he refuses to listen, Steve smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Then we'll teach him the same lesson. We're teaching you that humans don't forgive. And we never forget. The human ships moved closer. The ancient warships were about to show the Empire what 200 years of evolution could accomplish. Emperor Kalthos sat on his golden throne in the capital city of the Galactic Empire. He was old, even for his species. His skin was black as space, and his eyes glowed red like dying stars. He had ruled for over 300 years. Bring me the reports, he commanded. His aide, a thin creature with blue skin, approached nervously. Your Majesty, the news is not good. We have lost contact with the Grand Fleet. What do you mean, lost contact? The humans, Your Majesty. They have returned. They destroyed Admiral Zix Mora's entire fleet. Only one ship escaped. Kalthos felt anger rise in his chest. Impossible. We wiped out the humans 2 centuries ago. Apparently not, Your Majesty. They were hiding, planning, growing stronger. The Emperor stood up from his throne. He was 12 feet tall and had 4 arms. When he was angry, he was terrifying to behold. Summon the High Council. We need to discuss this threat. Meanwhile, in space near the Empire's capital system, Captain Rachel Turner was preparing for the most important mission of her life. Her ship, the UHS Nemesis, was approaching the heart of enemy territory. Captain, we're entering their sensor. Range, said Chris Evans, her political officer. Rachel nodded. She was a diplomat as well as a warrior. Today, she would need both skills. Emma, are you ready? She asked her cultural analyst. Emma Watson looked up from her studies. I've analyzed their customs, Captain. I know how to approach them without causing unnecessary offense. Good. Matt, how's security? Matt Johnson, her bodyguard team leader, checked his weapons. We're ready for anything, Captain. If they try something, we'll be prepared. The Nemesis was different from other human ships. It was designed for diplomacy, not war, but it was still deadly if needed. Chris, send our message, Rachel ordered. Yes, Captain. The message went out to the Empire's capital. It was simple and direct. Humanity requests an audience with Emperor Kalthos. We come in peace, but we are prepared for war. In the throne room, the Emperor received the message. His red eyes blazed with fury. They dare to demand an audience? They should be begging for mercy. Your Majesty, said his military advisor, perhaps we should listen to what they have to say. Our fleets cannot defeat them in battle. Nonsense. We have 1,000,000 ships. We can crush any enemy. But the Emperor's confidence was shaken. The reports from the front lines were terrifying. Human ships that could not be destroyed. Weapons that ignored all defenses. Technology that seemed like magic. Let them come, he said finally. I will show them the power of the Empire. The Nemesis entered the capital system. It was escorted by 12 Empire ships, but they kept their distance. They had learned to fear human vessels. Captain, they're directing us to the main station, Chris reported. Rachel looked at the massive structure ahead. It was the size of a moon, covered in cities and weapons. Billions of beings lived there. Take us in, she ordered. The Nemesis docked at a special berth. Rachel and her team prepared to meet the Emperor. They wore their best uniforms, but carried hidden weapons. Remember, Rachel said to her team, we're here to deliver a message, not to start a fight. But if they attack us, we defend ourselves. The humans were escorted through the station's corridors. Thousands of aliens stared at them, in fear and curiosity. Many had never seen a human before. The throne room was massive. It could hold 10,000 people. The Emperor sat on his golden throne, surrounded by his advisors and guards. So, Kalthos said in a voice like thunder, the humans have returned. I thought we killed you all. Rachel stepped forward. She was not afraid. Your Majesty, you killed our old selves. We are something new now. You look the same to me. Appearances can be deceiving. We have evolved beyond your understanding. The Emperor laughed. Evolved? You're still the same weak species we defeated centuries ago. Rachel smiled. Would you like a demonstration? Before the Emperor could answer, the lights in the throne room began to flicker. The massive doors, which were guarded by 100 soldiers, began to open by themselves. What's happening? Kalthos demanded. We're showing you what we learned, Rachel said calmly. Your station's computer systems are very primitive. We took control of them about 10 minutes ago. The Emperor's guards raised their weapons, but their guns wouldn't fire. The computers that controlled them had been shut down. Impressive, the Emperor said, trying to hide his fear. But tricks with computers won't save you in a real war. You're right, Rachel agreed, which is why we brought something else. Outside the station, space began to ripple. Shapes appeared in the darkness. Human warships, dozens of them, materialized around the Empire's capital. Your Majesty, a terrified aide reported, there are human ships everywhere. They bypassed all our defenses. Kalthos felt true fear for the first time in centuries. How many? Unknown, sir. They keep appearing. Rachel watched the Emperor's face change. We could destroy this entire system in minutes. Every ship, every station, every planet. But we don't want to. What do you want? Justice, reparations, and a guarantee that the Empire will never again threaten humanity. The Emperor's advisors whispered among themselves. They were terrified. The humans had technology that seemed impossible. You're in no position to make demands, Kalthos said, but his voice was shaking. Aren't we? Rachel asked. Emma, show them the analysis. Emma Watson activated a holographic display. It showed the Empire's military strength compared to humanity's new capabilities. Your Majesty, we've studied your Empire for 2 centuries. We know every weakness, every flaw, every way to bring you down. The display showed human ships attacking key Empire installations, supply depots, shipyards, communication centers. All of them were destroyed in the simulation. We could cripple your entire civilization in a matter of days, Emma continued. but we prefer negotiation to annihilation. Chris Evans stepped forward. Your Majesty, we offer you a choice. Negotiate with us now, while you still have something to negotiate with, or face the consequences of refusing. What consequences? Matt Johnson smiled. Captain, should I show them? Rachel nodded. Matt activated a device on his belt. Suddenly, every weapon in the throne room turned to dust. The guard's armor fell apart. Even the Emperor's crown began to crumble. This is a small sample of our molecular disruptor technology, Matt explained. We can do this to your entire fleet, your entire empire, every piece of metal you own. The Emperor stared in horror as his golden throne began to dissolve. Stop this. Will you negotiate? Rachel asked. Yes. Yes, I'll negotiate. Just stop this madness. Matt turned off the device. The destruction stopped, but the damage was done. The Emperor had seen what the humans could do. Good, Rachel said. Here are our terms. First, the Empire will withdraw from all systems within 50 light years of human space. Second, you will pay reparations for the damage you caused during your invasion. Third, you will release all political prisoners and stop your expansion. And if I refuse? Rachel looked at him with cold eyes. Then we'll remove you from power, and your successor, and his successor. We'll keep doing it until we find someone willing to be reasonable. The Emperor realized he had no choice. The humans had become something beyond his understanding, something that could destroy his empire without breaking a sweat. I agree to your terms, he said quietly. Excellent. Rachel replied. We'll give you 1 month to begin the withdrawal. Our ships will monitor your progress. As the humans prepared to leave, the Emperor called out to Rachel. How did you become so powerful? What happened to you during those 2 centuries? Rachel turned back to him. We learned, Your Majesty. We learned that the universe is not ruled by the strong or the cruel. It's ruled by the smart and the patient. We became both. The humans left the throne room, leaving behind an empire that would never be the same. The age of humanity had begun. Admiral Tony Mitchell stood on the bridge of the UHS Leviathan, the most massive ship ever built by humanity. It was 10 miles long and carried a crew of 100,000. The ship was more than a vessel. It was a moving city, a symbol of human power. Admiral, the Empire is beginning its withdrawal, reported Helen Brooks, his strategic advisor. She was studying reports from across the galaxy. Tony nodded. 3 months had passed since Captain Rachel Turner delivered humanity's ultimatum to Emperor Kelthos. The Empire was slowly pulling back from human space, but Tony didn't trust them. Kevin, how many systems have they evacuated? He asked his fleet coordinator. Kevin Wong looked up from his displays. 37 so far, sir. They're moving faster than we expected. Fear is a powerful motivator, Tony said with a slight smile. Amanda, any word from the other species? Amanda Stone, his diplomatic liaison, had been monitoring communications across the galaxy. Yes, sir. The news of our return is spreading. Other species are starting to resist Empire rule. Tony walked to the main display. It showed the entire galaxy, with human ships marked in blue and Empire forces in red. The red areas were shrinking day by day. The Empire made a mistake, he said to his crew. They thought they could rule through fear alone. But fear works both ways. In the Vega system, Captain Sam Wilson was overseeing the construction of humanity's first monitoring station in 2 centuries. His ship, the UHS Guardian, floated nearby, watching over the work. Captain, the station will be operational in 6 hours, reported his chief engineer. Sam looked at the massive structure taking shape. It was grown rather than built, like all human technology now. The station would serve as an early warning system and a symbol of humanity's return. Good work, everyone. This is just the beginning. The Empire had abandoned this system 3 weeks ago. The aliens who lived here were celebrating their freedom. They had suffered under Empire rule for decades. Sir, we are receiving a message. From the planet, said his communications officer. Put it through. The image of an alien appeared on the screen. It had green skin and large eyes. It looked happy, but nervous. Captain Wilson, this is Governor Tixana. On behalf of my people, I want to thank you for liberating us from the Empire. Sam smiled. We're happy to help, Governor. But remember, we're not here to rule you. We're here to protect you. I understand. But if you ever need anything at all, you only have to ask. This was happening all over the galaxy. As the Empire withdrew, other species were welcoming humanity as liberators. It was a role Tony and his people took seriously. Commander. Julie Anderson was leading a patrol in the Orion sector. Her ship, the UHS Sentinel, was designed for long-range reconnaissance. She was making sure the Empire was keeping its word. Commander, we're detecting Empire ships in the Rigel system. Reported her tactical officer. Julie frowned. They're supposed to be gone from there by now. Should we investigate? Yes, but carefully. I want to know what they're doing. The Sentinel moved toward the Rigel system. It was invisible to Empire sensors, using the same phase technology that had made human ships so deadly in battle. What Julie found disturbed her. The Empire ships weren't withdrawing. They were building something, a secret base, hidden on the dark side of a moon. They're not following the agreement, she said to her crew. Send a message to Admiral Mitchell. He needs to know about this. Tony received Julie's report while the Leviathan was patrolling the border between human and Empire space. He studied the data with his senior staff. They're testing us, Helen said, seeing if we'll notice small violations. They're about to learn that we notice everything, Tony replied. Kevin, how quickly can we get ships to the Rigel system? 12 hours, sir. Do it. And make sure the Empire knows we're coming. The response was swift and decisive. A dozen human ships appeared in the Rigel system, surrounding the secret Empire base. The aliens tried to resist, but their weapons were useless against human technology. This is Admiral Tony Mitchell, Tony announced to the Empire forces. You have violated our agreement. You have 30 minutes to evacuate this system completely. The Empire commander tried to argue. This is a misunderstanding. We were just 29 minutes, Tony interrupted. The Empire ships fled. The secret base was destroyed. The message was clear. Humanity would not tolerate any violations of their treaty. Emperor Kalthos received the report in his throne room. His advisors were nervous. The humans had responded faster than anyone thought possible. How did they know? The Emperor demanded. Unknown, Your Majesty. They seem to have eyes everywhere. What do you recommend? Full compliance, Your Majesty. We cannot afford to anger them further. The Emperor felt his empire crumbling around him. For 3 centuries, he had ruled through fear and strength. Now he was the one who was afraid. Send orders to all our fleets, he said quietly. Complete withdrawal from human space. No exceptions. Back on the Leviathan, Tony was receiving reports. From across the galaxy, the Empire was accelerating its withdrawal. Other species were declaring independence. The balance of power was shifting. Sir, we're getting a message from the Andromedan Republic, Amanda reported. They want to form an alliance with us. And the Centauri Federation? They're asking for our protection against Empire retaliation. Tony smiled. The galaxy is changing, everyone. We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We're fighting for everyone who wants to be free. Helen looked at the galactic map. Sir, there's something else. We're detecting signals from the outer rim. Species we've never heard of before. They're asking for help. Help with what? Empire slave raids. The Emperor is trying to replace his lost territory by conquering new worlds. Tony's expression darkened. Then we'll stop him. Sir, that could mean war with the entire Empire. Good. It's time to finish what we started 2 centuries ago. The human fleet began to move. Ships that had been hidden for centuries emerged from their hiding places. The ancient warships were ready for their final battle. Captain Sam Wilson received his orders while overseeing the new monitoring station. All ships, prepare for Operation Liberation. We're going to free the galaxy. Commander Julie Anderson smiled as she read the message. Finally, time to show them what happens when you mess with humanity. Across the galaxy, other species watched in amazement as the human fleet assembled. Thousands of ships, each one more advanced than anything the Empire possessed. My friends, Tony announced to his captains, we've spent 2 centuries planning our return. We've shown the Empire that we cannot be defeated. Now it's time to show them that we cannot be ignored. What are our orders, sir? Asked Captain Sam Wilson. Simple. We're going to remove the Empire from power. Every world they control, every species they oppress, every life they threaten, we're going to set them all free. And if they resist? Tony's smile was cold as space. Then we'll remind them why humanity is called the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The human fleet moved out, spreading across the stars like a tide of justice. The Empire's age of terror was ending. The age of humanity had begun. On 1,000 worlds, oppressed people looked up at the stars and whispered a single word: hope. The ancient human warships had returned. And this time, they were not just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for everyone who believed in freedom. The galaxy would never be the same. Emperor Kalthos sat alone in his throne room, watching reports of his empire's collapse. World after world was declaring independence. His fleets were deserting. His allies were abandoning him. Your Majesty, his last loyal advisor whispered, perhaps it's time to consider surrender. The Emperor looked at him with tired eyes. Surrender? To whom? The humans aren't interested in ruling us. They want to destroy us. Then what do we do? Kalthos stood up from his crumbling throne. We learn to live in a galaxy where humans are the apex predator. And we pray they show us more mercy than we showed them. Far away, Admiral Tony Mitchell watched the final Empire stronghold fall. The war was over. Humanity had won. Not just for themselves, but for everyone. Sir, Helen said quietly, what happens now? Tony looked at the stars. Now we keep our promise. We protect the innocent. We defend the weak. We make sure that no one ever again has to fear the kind of tyranny the Empire represented. And if someone tries to replace the Empire? Tony's smile was peaceful but firm. Then they'll learn the same lesson, that humanity doesn't just fight for itself. We fight for the idea that everyone deserves to be free. The ancient human warships had completed their mission. They had returned deadlier than anything the Empire had ever witnessed. And they had used that power not just for revenge, but for justice. The galaxy was free. And humanity would make sure it stayed that way.